Okay, ITIL. It used to be an abbreviation of IT infrastructure, Information Technology Infrastructure Library. And actually, it defines it well. In the beginning, it was a library. It was a pile of books, 37, I think, in the beginning. But nowadays, it's just ITIL. They changed it. They don't want to have it the library thing there anymore. But it started in the 90s in England, when some clever guy, noticed that they're running out of money. And then they noticed that everybody, each office in the English government is doing IT on a different way. And they had good ways there, and they had other good ways there. So they decided to put all these things together in one library. So in the beginning, it was only for the English government, or the UK government. But very soon, from the very beginning, the industry became interested in that. They had used quite a lot of money into that, having consultants such as IBM, HP and stuff along there, building these processes and models. So the industry became very interested, and so they decided to continue the development. And it's called, in the beginning of 2000s, ITIL version 2 came out, and that's when I came across it. And that was during my time with the forest industry. We were defining our processes. We wanted to get more structured way of working. And then we came across ITIL, and I only looked at the headlines and looked at our processes, and I noticed, well, we have them all. Why bother looking at books? We must be much more clever than all these other guys in the world. I thought about it later on. It might have been good to take a look at the book, because we spent really a lot of money developing and defining these processes. So, but anyway, about the background then, it became very popular during those years, starting from the beginning of 2000s. It was 8 books then, so they put some stuff together. But actually the only books that people used were the service delivery and service support books. Service delivery being stuff like availability management, capacity management models, change management, configuration management. And service support being incident management, problem management. What else was there? I don't remember, it's been so long. Service level management was in one of those books. But actually the model was more to give models of processes. And then I remember the picture. You had a business here, and you had a technology IT here, and then you had the processes in between, so that they are like now everything works. But in the next slide, I have some background why the model was changed in 2007. The whole idea was changed in a sense that ITIL. Oh, I was alright. I will go and get mine. Thank you. So, thanks. So, in ITIL, we started to talk about service lifecycle management. I remember when I saw this serving for the first time, I was like, where did all the processes go? This is not the process. This is some kind of a wheel. And when I got into it, it's actually quite clever. I'll go to details. I'll just check that I don't forget anything. So, ITIL is the de facto standard in IT service management nowadays. So, I would say that every single request for offer to a service, IT service vendor says that you have to be working according to ITIL practices. Very often, these people that want to get the offer, they don't know what it means, but they know that it has to be there. And actually, the service providers are doing quite good work. They are training their people, and they are going towards others. They are not there yet. They have some companies have a long way, and some outside is short.
Sometimes it's one critical point that the amount of the people need to be certificated by ITIL.
Yeah. It's a global language for IT processes and IT services. And as I said, we are translating. I'm a member of board in IT Service Management Forum Finland. There are 60-something chapters all around the world. I just attended the annual general meeting 2 weeks ago in Stockholm. There were 24 countries represented. So this is everywhere. IT Service Management Forum is established to bring this idea forward and make it better. So develop ITIL further. So we are translating it into Finnish, and that's there's some controversial ideas there. Should it be only in English, or should we have a local language copy of it? And we have decided that yes, we have to have, because people will speak the language anyway. So
can you really translate it, sir?
Yeah.
That people can understand.
Yeah, and then we have the terminology in place, so that if you use a Finnish word for incident management, everybody's using the same word, and that's it's been very good.
What is incident management in Finnish?
It's nowadays häiriönhallinta.
Oh.
Yes, we changed it. It used to be tapahtumanhallinta.
Okay, right.
And it was something like very analytical and academic when they first came up with the
tapahtuma management means the event management in ITIL, which
Yeah.
is overlapping with
And
this.
it's hereditary. It's awful to translate it because
That's why I asked, can you really translate it?
Yes, you can. This book. Okay. But yeah, and one very big idea of ITIL is this wheel is that the continual improvement, not continuous, but continual. But it means different than continuous. You don't have to do it all the time. Do it continually. Do it once a year, but frequently. Keep track of what's happening. Check it if it's there, if it's still there. When we come to service portfolio, you can see it in practice. But yes, let's go to the structure of ITIL. Actually, I didn't really know that not everyone is ITIL expert here, so I'll spend a little bit more time in this so that you'll know what's in ITIL, and you can decide if you want to use it or not. So, ITIL is a set of files, so it's getting smaller all the time. It used to be 37, it became 8, and now it's 5. And these objects here represent each one book. The green book is service strategy, and it handles the creation of IT service strategy. It's not too high level, I would say. It's not the best strategy book in the world, but it relates IT service management to business, and actually that's quite good. And it includes some ideas such as service portfolio management. How should you decide what kind of services you have there in your IT, or actually in your whole corporation? What kind of IT services, business services should you have? It's talking about demand management. How do you manage changing demand? When, let's say, if you're working in a retail store, every Christmas you have a huge demand for all kinds of IT services, and then during the July in Finland you can even close down all the servers because nobody's using them anymore. So that's service strategy, and it's about deciding and defining. For example, if you're an internal IT department, defining who are your customers actually. What kind of groups do you find from there? It's got quite nice models there. It's easy when you read it, then you have the checklist, then you realize that, yeah, okay, maybe we should do it. So when you have decided about your strategy, it talks also about sourcing. Should you do it yourself? Should you buy something from outside? It describes, it shows you all different kinds of models like business process outsourcing, full technological outsourcing, insourcing, co-sourcing, shared services. It gives you all the models that there are. These wise men put them together in one book, so you don't have to waste time trying to define them most. But then there are the actual service lifecycle books, service design. How do you design your service? You decide that in strategy level. You decide that. In strategy level, you decide that the data procedure isn't working. That's quite strange. Okay. Yeah, so service design, it handles availability. It gives you a service design package. What should you take into account when you design services? Check the book, because you have a ready-made list of things that you have to think when you're building up a new service or developing an old one. It's called service design package, and if you follow that one, it will be ready for production when you get it done. Actually, it's quite nice, and that's something that is very rare in IT organizations. They don't start thinking about operations in that stage. But it gives you models and processes for availability management, capacity management, service continuity management, security management, aspects of how you should organize. Actually, these books are quite nice now. When they were refreshed in 2011, they got, I would say, most of the role descriptions for IT you can find from books. You don't need to invent them yourself. You can of course, you have to combine them or take parts from them, but you have a big list. So then when you have designed the service, you probably want to take into production. Sometimes it requires some planning. For example, how do you schedule the changes, different changes that are happening? Should you first install the server and the application only afterwards, or the other way around, if you don't have a service script? So that's service transition. It's mostly about change management. It's release management. How do you package the releases so that when you have the release weekend, you actually can get all of these into production? And service transition is also about configuration management and service knowledge management. So how do you keep track of what you have there? Yeah, service transition. It's about bringing these designed services to production successfully and on an organized manner, on a documented manner. Service operation book. It gives you models of how to run the operations. It has models of functions. It's very traditional, but I haven't really seen, well, okay, usually they refer to technical management function, application management function, and then you have the operations function where you have service desk and operational departments, these guys that still tag these black screens. And that's about incident problem management, service request fulfillment, automating service requests. You have models there. And it's actually I forgot to mention service catalog management in service design, which is a very practical example, continuous of service portfolio management. But I will tell you more about that because I think that that's something that you might find interesting. Those are the 4 books, and then there's one book called Continual Service Improvement. And it gives you models of how to measure services and what to do then. Especially I like the continual service improvement model. And it's a very simple, this is 5-step model. Starting when you're looking at a service or a process or whatever you want to improve. First you check what's the vision, what are we doing here, why are we, what's the purpose of life and everything. Then you check where you are now. What's the position now? The next thing is that where do we want to be? Because if you know where you are and where you want to be, then it's much easier to go for the next step. How do we get there? And then the next step in this process is to check if we really got there. So it's about measuring. It's about let's make this slightly bigger and let's check after 2 weeks if it works better. And then there's one more thing. Next time, check the vision again and keep the circle going. So that's they've got the 7-step improvement process, which is basically about defining metrics for some service or something. They've got models of different kinds of metrics, and one thing is that they've got models of examples of reporting, and especially that's good notion there that report something that the audience understands in a way that they understand and is valuable for them. Don't just do reports for reporting. And more, in ITIL there are more and more complementary guidance, such as this one, for example. This presentation is now made for you, and it's about infrastructure, it's about architecture and ITIL. But there are whole lots of white papers, templates, case studies all around. When you go and surf around the web, you can find. You don't have to invent anything yourself anymore. You can find it from the web or somewhere. And actually, I like more, one ITIL thing I like really much is the online ITIL that you can buy a yearly license. I think it's about 200 euros or something. But you got this material in electronic form and access to them. So that's ITIL. Any comments on that? What do you think? It's about IT service management.